FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
Mondays when we also get into foreign policy, and we have a lot on deck for that as well. Stephen Yates is a foreign policy expert with the D.C. International Advisory, DCI.org, and he joins us on the phone right now. Stephen, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Dana. It's
good to talk with you. One of the, Syria is what's something that's been on everyone's mind, and it seems as though we're about to get into another Libya situation, or at least have that discussion. We've had certain prominent Democrats trying to encourage our Congress to take some sort of action in Syria. And at the same time, I really do feel, Stephen, like it's like Libya all over again. We're not exactly sure who the protesters are in Syria. We're not actually sure who's all involved in the opposition. And I just don't think that we have any business being there unless our interests are at stake. And I don't see that. Can you kind of explain to people what this tug of war is about?
Well, sure. The brief on what it's all about. We have
in terms of the battle of Democrats wanting to get in.
Family in Syria who has been in dictatorial rule for generations. We have in past governments made a deal with the devil in aim of achieving what we consider to be stability in the region by empowering that dictator who is essentially the ally of Iran and terrorist networks and a whole host of bad things. And the people of Syria, the majority, are not of the Alawite Shiite vintage. They're Sunni, and they have broad regional support. They have a majority in their country, and they're seeking to depose a longtime dictatorial family. We have an exceedingly difficult time imagining a clear and easy path toward helping this transition, I believe. And I share all of the frustrations you outlined at the outset, and even more so since, really all of this unrest began 15 months ago. Exactly how long does it take for the august national security team of the Obama administration to put on their thinking caps and figure out a way to shape an outcome, protect American interests without deploying our troops, without actually expanding a wider war?
Right. One of the things that Syrian President Assad had said was that the crackdown that he has imposed on Syrian people is that he said that basically he's a surgeon saving the patient, according to the Associated Press, and he blames the uprising on terrorists. And I've talked to people like Dana Loesch, who's director of Former Muslims United. She grew up in Egypt and has kept tabs on everything happening over in the Middle East as well. And she says that with these uprisings, that's what it is. You have people who are associated with the Muslim Brotherhood that get involved, and it's all about overthrowing, even though these aren't great leaders, they're secular leaders who haven't posed any sort of threat to United States interests, but they're trying to push these countries towards voting for leaders who would implement Sharia. Is that kind of an accurate characterization of what's happening, or is that just at this point just theory?
I think, in part it's both. In a sense, there is no denying that there are those agendas and those actors present in all of these populations affected by the Arab Spring. But what is very, very different in Syria, as opposed to some of these other geographies, is you do have a government who is an enemy of the United States, who is engaged in terrorist support and activities, who did build a nuclear power plant with the help of the North Koreans that had to be destroyed by the Israelis. Yeah. And so in some ways, Syria is different. I just oppose the idea of, without thinking, once again, launching into upsetting an apple cart with no plan for what to do once it's upset in an already volatile world. I mean, there's no questioning that Assad and Syria is an enemy of the United States, given its ties to proliferation and to Iran.
Right. Is this something that the Arab League could take care of, though? I know that was something that was discussed with Libya, and people were asking, well, why doesn't the Arab League just take care of this? Or with Egypt, why doesn't the Arab League just take care of that? Why don't they get more involved in this issue?
Well, they are meeting, as they did on Libya and some of these other crises. One of the problems is that the United States in some ways gets in the way of others helping our interests or helping take care of things themselves in the following sense. In Libya, as in Syria, our president says that a leader must go. But then the State Department will impose an arms embargo so that if some of these regional powers decide that they want to help the rebels overthrow the government that the United States says should go, we might actually penalize those who want to step in and help. And so we not only have over-regulation at home on common sense, we have over-regulation on common sense abroad when it comes to these things.
Right. Hillary Clinton as well has been meeting with Vladimir Putin, trying to encourage Russia to kind of step up a little bit in their efforts to push for political transition in Syria. Do you think that she's going to be successful? And I'm very nervous about Russia just getting involved in all of this.
I think that the administration's naivete on Russia is literally unbounded. The whole notion of a reset was entirely false. And, I thought that George Bush had it wrong when he said he thought he looked into Vladimir Putin's soul and saw something. And Obama and Clinton and others had no problem making fun of him for that. But what they're doing is far worse. They're undermining our Eastern European allies on missile defense for nothing. They're basically undermining their own stated objectives in places like Syria by saying that you give Russia any role whatsoever in deciding. You certainly cannot rely on.
Right.
So Putin, as we noted a few weeks ago, just yanked the administration around on the NATO summit and the G8 discussions. So why, once again, do you pin your hopes on that? I just don't believe that Hillary Clinton, as fine a public servant as she may be striving to be, just has no hope up against the bear.
Exactly. I mean, at least there should be some consistency in our policies and how Russia is treated going forward. And there doesn't seem, it seems that this administration has taken it to the complete opposite end. Stephen Yates with DC International Advisory, DCIadvisory.org. We always appreciate your perspective on this, and we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll definitely be talking to you next week as well. Stephen, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Take care.